Good evening, everybody. I'd like to call to order this business meeting for the Borough Council of the Borough of Gettysburg for Monday, September 8th, 2025. Please make sure you've signed in over there at the door, especially if you plan to speak tonight. Join me, if you will, in silencing your phones. And then please join me in a moment of silence and the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everyone, and thanks for being here with us tonight. No opening announcements, so I would take a motion to approve the September 8th, 2025 agenda as presented.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, we have an agenda. I would also take a motion to approve the minutes of the council meeting held on August 11th, 2025, the special council meeting held on August 18th, 2025, and the minutes of the CDBG public hearing number 2 and the council work session, both held August 25th, 2025, and the special work session held on September 3rd, 2025, as presented.
So moved. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Are there any corrections, omissions, errors, additions? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? All right, thank you. That's going to lead us directly to our first public comment section of the evening. This first section is restricted to items appearing on tonight's agenda. We need you to use the podium, speak clearly into the microphone, please state your name and address of residence, and please limit your comment to 5 minutes.
I'm basically speaking tonight about the property at...
I'm sorry, can you pull the microphone down and give us your name and address, please?
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Okay, I was supposed to speak last week, but I wasn't. I was supposed to speak 8/20/25 at the Harb meeting. I live at
I'm sorry, can you state your name for us,
Yes,
please?
Nancy Smith Taylor,
And the address?
221 South Washington Street.
Thank you, ma'am.
And I'm right next to 219 South Washington Street, which is on the Harb recommendation for COA 250071, critical project of the Adams County Historical Society for the demolition of later additions and the Phase 1 restoration. Well, I've been on the record since 2023. I've attended a few meetings, and my main concern was for the responsible development of the property, because at some areas, our properties, which I've sent pictures to the borough and Harb, but these properties actually touch each other. And the property of concern is in derelict condition, and I wanted to make sure that there was no mess or problem or safety issues. So in the meantime, because I missed last meeting, I did speak with Andrew Dalton at the ACH office, and we've spoken prior. And he verbally promised again to be responsible and accountable with both contact updates and in the demolition and renovation of 219. And Conawago Enterprises is going to do the process. And then if we have any concerns, he's also agreed to work with us. So I'm very happy that the process, I know, again, I first spoke in 2023, and it's now 2025, so it's taken 2 years of them working hard to get a plan established and submitted. And basically, that's what I wanted to say, and then I wanted it on the record, because I should be on the record, and if anybody wants pictures of the property, I can email them. But again, we look forward to the completed renovation of the property, because that's going to be about another 2-year process, and we live right there. So he has promised to work, with us in case there's any problem, and I'm very happy that it's going to that is within walking distance of other Civil War monuments in the historic district. So respectfully submitted, Nancy Smith-Taylor.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, so should I leave this with anybody?
Yeah, you can give that to Ms. Still here, the secretary.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further public comment?
Marilyn Miller, 45 East Broadway. I attended the September 3rd meeting regarding the draft zoning ordinances. As of yesterday, the draft on the website has not been updated. Could you, since May 2025, could you speak to what changes, if any, have been made up to date, and when the website draft will be updated for the public? And if Mr. Eastman could outline the legal steps of review for comprehensive rezoning, as well as the time window available to the public for review of the final documents prior to a council vote.
Thank you. Public comment.
My name is Tom Pauls, 26 Highland View Lane in Gettysburg. Madam Mayor, Mr. President, council members, real quick background, then I want to get into the points. I'm an AICP planner 40 years, almost 40 years, worked in 3 states. I was a director of planning for the city of Frederick from 1980 to 83 as the Carroll Creek project was emerging. Served as adjunct instructor for 10 years at Old Dominion University in Norfolk and taught upper-level undergraduate and graduate level courses in city and urban planning, city and regional planning. I say this because I want you to understand what I'm about to say is from my perspective as a planner for all those years. I know that each jurisdiction has its own way of doing things, but I'd like to offer these thoughts for your consideration. When I was reading the definition of family and how it's being adjusted, it seemed to me that I couldn't find anywhere where there was a compelling reason that explained why the difference was being made from the existing ordinance to the one that's being proposed. And the existing ordinance in section 27201, it identifies a numerical number of unrelated. So I guess it would be interesting to see where is the validation for that change. Number 2, you consider the growing, incremental, and over time, the unmeasurable impacts on the borough's physical and fiscal resources that's created by situations where countless, and I say relatively uncommitted, it's relatively uncommitted family members are cohabiting within a given certain zoning district. Now, when I talk about that, I'm talking about the demand side. You think about density, whether it's people per dwelling unit or dwelling units per acre, density is density. And when you come down to the demand side of land use and how it impacts such things as the capital improvement program and the operating budgets of local jurisdictions, those are realities that will emerge over time that you will need to deal with. And I don't know if that's been really thought out. I don't believe there was a fiscal impact analysis that was done as part of this. I know it was based upon the Central Adams Joint Comprehensive Plan. I think that's the term. But there's schools, and I'm telling you things you already know, but for the benefit of others, there's schools, roads, police, fire, parks, libraries, water, sewer, and we could go on and on. So as density increases over time within a given area or areas, those impacts will be real. And as the city manager was mentioning, I think the proposed shortfall next year is $188,000. that might pale in comparison if you don't stop to think about the demand side of land use. And again, that's people per dwelling unit as well as dwelling units per acre. So that's one thing I wanted to offer. Also, I think Mr. Eastman would appreciate this, there is a presumption of correctness in the existing zoning. In other words, there should be a compelling reason why you're making the changes. And again, I haven't seen a compelling reason for that term alone. I have a couple of other points I want to make here along those lines. There's a wonderful statement I learned a long, long time ago. It says, you can't manage what you can't measure. And if you can't measure something, you got to have a really, really hard time understanding how you're going to deal with it in a real world situation. So just some thoughts to keep in the back of your mind as you consider this idea of removing the numerical constraints that are identified in the existing definition of family. Two other zoning amendment related comments. These deal with definitions. One has to do with variances. And again, this is from my perspective. But my understanding of a variance is that it's very distinct from a special exception. A variance is a dimensional requirement, and a special exception is more of a use requirement. So I would suggest that in the definition of variance, that be added to the proposed zoning ordinance variance, and that it relates to a dimensional requirement, not land use. The need for the variance is not self-imposed, and I think that might be identified in another part of the ordinance. The absence of a variance would create an unreasonable economic hardship, and the situation is not of such a recurring nature that there ought to be an amendment to the zoning ordinance to correct it. Those four elements, I think, would be helpful to put into the definition of a variance for clarity's sake. There's a wonderful another term that when it's cloudy in the pulpit, it's foggy in the pews. And so if people don't have a real good understanding of what's going on, they're not going to be sure what's happening. And then finally, unreasonable economic hardship. A hardship that would cause the property owner to lose all reasonable economic value so as to be an equivalent of a taking of such property. Again, there ought to be a strict control over the definition of what is a hardship and have that identified in the ordinance. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Public comment.
Could you pass those along? I'm Sue Sipperly. I live at 314 North Stratton Street. Tonight's agenda seeks to set a public hearing for the draft rezoning. This doesn't match the schedule previously set out at the August 25th meeting. Please explain the process, when the county comment period for a comprehensive rezoning would begin and end, and when council intends to have a final vote. There's no draft yet available, as was mentioned, that reflects the changes made at the workshop meeting on September 3rd or prior meetings. It seems premature to set a hearing for October 27th when the document is not even available yet. It was my understanding that the uses chart would be discussed at a future meeting. Is that still happening? Uses I spoke about would affect the R2 moderate density zone throughout the borough. They have not been discussed by council yet. I don't think the answers are complicated. Student housing includes fraternity and sorority as a special exception use. These exist as grandfathered uses in R1, that's, for example, West Broadway, but there are currently none that I can find in R2. After all the comments about problems with faux frats, why add them officially? They constitute a social club. Student dwelling institutional is a special exception use where the college owns the building off campus. These exist on North Washington, but why have them able to expand in a different area? The existing ones could be grandfathered. Bed and breakfast in R2 needs to be discussed. It was gone and now it's been put back, and it's not clear why. Obviously, the definition of family is still problematic as written. The task force version included a maximum number of unrelated occupants, which was 4. The Planning Commission version doesn't. I think the potential impacts of that change were not totally understood. The redevelopment zone discussion in particular made it sound like zoning exists in order to generate revenue for the borough. That's not the case and may have misled council members and the public. Overloading the capacity of an area and potentially destroying the historic character in the name of increased property tax is not the way to go. No matter what you call it, a 7-story building is twice as tall as most in the downtown area. This would even be more evident on Railroad Street. It's called shooting yourself in the foot. Please have a more complete process and document before setting a public hearing. Thanks.
Thank you. Public comment?
Good evening. Scott English, business owner, 6668 West High Street. I'm here to voice my support for the project directly across the street from our property, 219 South Washington Street, a building that I've been familiar with since I was born, and I've been coming here over 60 years. Having been friends with, and more than just an acquaintance with Rosalie, the prior owner, I know what the inside of that building's like. And it's nothing short of a miracle that the Historical Society has stepped up and is willing to corral the resources in an effort to preserve for future generations to see one of the most historic black properties in the borough. And I think based on what Andrew and the Historical Society and the board of the Historical Society have done with their museum and other properties in town, I feel sure that any processes they do will be compliant with any environmental regulations and do justice for a property that has long been covered in green siding since I've been a kid. That's the way it's always looked. So it'll be nice to actually see it as it was in a more historic time. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Public comment.
Hi everyone, Andrew Dalton. We have a few properties in town. 219 South Washington Street is one of them. And I just wanted to thank all of you for the opportunity to move this project forward. And we had a great discussion with Harb and got their approval at the last meeting. I'm really looking forward to seeing this come to fruition, and I'd like to invite all of you to come out on October 4th at 3 o'clock. We're going to have a press conference and an event to celebrate the announcement of this project out in the street. We've just gotten our permit for that. We're really looking forward to having that and hope you all can make it. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Public comment? All right, seeing none, we will begin the agenda. We will start this evening in the Planning Department with Mr. Whitmore.
Good evening. A copy of the report was provided electronically. Met quite a few times since the last Borough Council meeting, but overall the thrust of tonight's agenda item is the rezoning. With that said, we have the materials that are presented in the departmental report indicating the changes that were made or suggested for the ordinance draft. In looking at those changes, there were we had changes to bedding use small, grocery store and convenience store in the NC3 district. In particular, if there's any other uses, I believe we still have time to do an update to the land use table. I believe there was a concern potentially regarding vape stores in the Old Town district. If you'd wanted to discuss that now, or we can proceed with it, I'll look to Harry on that to make sure we do it correctly. But overall, if you have any specific questions about the draft ordinance as will be created, once we have approval tonight, we would proceed with updating the draft, putting it on the website with the ordinance draft, and we additionally have to put it throughout the borough. There's a posting requirement that I'll work with Mr. Eastman's office to ensure that we do properly, but other than that, we should be on track then for approval and completion of the ordinance in this year. Further in the report, again to the CDBG, there will be an item tonight regarding that process. We'll be updating the 3-year plan to reflect the Adams County Children's Society project. With regards to that planning document, encourages projects like this. It would just be a procedural plan update, but we'll have that available at the next workshop meeting. So that's all I have.
All right. Is it appropriate to discuss a change to the use table at this point, or do we need to wait for a different time?
I think you can, I mean, obviously, the issue on the table will be whether or not you're going to be setting a public hearing. Once you set a public hearing, notification has to be made, not only to the public, because that will be their opportunity to provide comment, but also a copy of the ordinance that you intend to move forward has to be provided to the Adams County Office of Planning and Development. Because this is an ordinance amendment process, that's a 30-day minimum. And of course, because this is a very large project, I would urge council to, if we could get it to them as early as possible, that would be best. So in light of that, if there's some tidying up that you wish to do, please.
So I did have one issue in the use table that I neglected to bring up last week. It only occurred to me over this weekend was we were discussing a little bit about where the appropriate placement for vape shops is. And I was recently reminded by a friend who lived above a vape shop that caught on fire that these storefronts are full of lithium-ion batteries. And if one explodes, it can take out the entire store's inventory. And that really had me start to think about the appropriateness of vape shops, which do seem to be proliferating in the Old Town district. Old Town specifically is much older construction, a lot of very dry timber, very densely packed structures that abut, and a lithium-ion fire in Old Town could be devastating to potentially an entire block. On the use table that was provided to us last week, we do have 2 zones where e-cigarette vaporizer store smoking places are allowed. Both are by right. One is the Old Town and one is the general commercial. So I would like council to consider removing this as a use in Old Town and keeping it to general commercial. General commercial on our map is going to be the areas that are sort of bright red. So that's going to be sort of the Steinway Avenue commercial corridor, as well as the, there's a chunk over on West Street, and then I believe there's a little bit on the east side of town along York Street as well. So less densely built areas. Anybody have a strong opinion one way or the other on that?
I would say, excuse me, given the nature of Old Town District, that I would agree with you, Matt, that we would need to remove by right the permitted vape stores.
I'm of the opinion there's already plenty of vape stores in the borough of Gettysburg, and I don't want to see any more.
But specifically, do you think the use in Old Town is problematic?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Can take it out of Old Town. Would it still be allowed by special exception, or would be taking it?
I think I would be proposing keeping it just strictly in general commercial.
Okay, that's fine.
Patty?
Yes, I would agree with you, President Moon.
Okay.
Keeping it in Old Town.
All right, thanks.
Not keeping it in Old Town, thanks.
Okay, great. All right, well, thank you, everybody. Did anybody else have thoughts that occurred to them about use tables or anything to that effect just since our last meeting? Okay. I would hear a motion to set the hearing date.
Excuse me. There was some public comment addressing the process.
Sure.
Harry, could you address those questions and concerns about our timetable? Did it change, or can you explain why we're doing the process the way we're doing it?
As I previously indicated, the next step in the process, once you have a product that you're ready to proceed forward with, I hesitate to call it the final version of the zoning ordinance because the process perceives that there may be changes that are made based on the review and public comment. You're also going to be receiving, it's mandated that you provide notice of the upcoming hearing to the Office of Planning and Development, and they will be making recommendations to the Borough Council with regards to the ordinance. So that process, it's an important process, and I would always indicate to the members of council, that's all information that you want to consider before you proceed in the finalization of the ordinance. Again, we have to provide public notice of the public hearing. Of course, we're talking about it openly and so forth, but that's going to require that we publish notice within the Gettysburg Times. It's going to have to appear 2 successive weeks. And as Mr. Whitmore indicated, there is going to be, because there are zoning map changes, there is going to be a requirement for posting also of the notification of the public hearing to encourage as much public input and comment that you can receive. And again, the process, it's not necessarily a one and done, but the timing of this is set because, again, this has been a legislative priority of this council to get this ultimately passed. And it's on a calendar that will enable that to be done before the end of the year. Doesn't mean that you have to, and you may make decisions along the way that would extend it out. However, as you're probably well aware, council sits for a 2-year term, and this council will, in essence, on the first Monday of next year in January, will become a new council, so you'll only be sitting as a council up to that point. So you have a limited period of time within which to do that. In addition to the municipality's planning, and by the way, if, as a result of the recommendations and comments received from the public, you wish legitimately to make some changes and so forth, those changes must be made, and you must conduct another public hearing to allow public comment and so forth. So as long as changes are being made, we're going to do it, of course, we're going to do it consistent with the municipality's planning code, but we're also going to do it in a very open manner and in a manner that that encourages public input. And candidly, you've been doing that all along with your work in your work sessions in that regard. Ultimately, if once you decide that it's a finalized product, we actually then have to go through the procedures for enactment of an ordinance consistent with the requirements of the Borough Code. As you know, you always have to authorize the publication of the ordinance for intended enactment. We'll have to go through the same process. So, again, there will be a period of time where council can authorize or should authorize the, essentially, the ordinance, the finalized ordinance, to proceed to final vote. And again, in order for you to do it within this legislative session, I mean, it really does mandate to have the public hearing in the latter part of October. So then if you have a product that you wish to proceed ahead, you can have it on your agenda for November to authorize the advertisement of the ordinance for intended enactment at your December meeting. So then again, nothing says that you can't have special meetings and so forth. But again, this is to make it possible for you folks to do it on your normal calendar, if you will, for 2025. And Chris, that's probably more than you wanted me to talk about.
Thank you very much, Harry.
Would you like me to speak more to the timetable as well from my perspective? Because I can. I don't know that our projected schedule from last week or the week before has changed. I think we were pretty upfront about that we wanted to be enacting this year. If we extend past this legislative session, we will need to delay for several months as at least 2 new council members get up to speed on the vote they would be taking in the next year. Beyond that, we are, based on the goals set by council in 2022, we are a year behind schedule. And that does impact the property rights of people who own parcels where the uses may have been expanding, and they're waiting for this to happen before they can either utilize their parcel the way they wish or to sell it to somebody who wanted to use it for a different use. Those folks have been in limbo for almost 2 years now.
I had one question for Mr. Whitmore. There was a public comment about why this isn't available on the website. I believe it was the map. That's because this is still a working document. Is that correct?
That's correct. I intended after this meeting to have it put on we have a rezoning tab page that you can go to from the main page of the website. We've been having a running list of the drafts, but having the ordinance or the public hearing draft, we'll have that up and running. I anticipate that being most likely middle of this week.
Thank you, sir.
All right, would anybody care to make the motion to set the hearing?
I'll make a motion to schedule and set a public hearing of the Borough Council to be held on Monday, October 27, 2025, commencing at 6 p.m. to be conducted for the purposes of informing and obtaining public comment in connection with the proposed amendment of the Gettysburg Borough zoning ordinance and zoning map resulting from the borough's comprehensive zoning review and revision process.
Is there a second? We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion?
I had one question, President Moon, and that is, since that is the night of our workshop, will that just be a 1-hour public hearing then?
It'll go as long as it is necessary.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Any other discussion points? All right, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? Thank you.
And President Moon?
Yes.
And now that can go to the website because we've just voted on it.
Yep.
Great, thank you.
All right, does anybody have any questions for Mr. Whitmore before we move on to Ms. English? All right, thank you, sir. Deb?
Excuse me, you'll have my manager's report. We have several items for motion review from administrative consent and full HARB review, but I believe our solicitor, Mr. Harry Eastman, is going to discuss the HARB vote when we reviewed the project on August 20th of Ms. White's project at 95 Steinwood.
Would you like me to speak at this time?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Folks, we're learning a lot about the HARB process, aren't we? The reason I asked to speak, first of all, most importantly, my job is to provide advice and not only to the Borough Council, but also to our administrative staff as they move matters forward. And it became fairly clear that a procedural issue had come up at the August 20th HARB meeting. And I just wanted to, if you go to the minutes that were part of or are part of our meeting materials on page 11, there was a motion to recommend Borough Council to issue a certificate of appropriateness to approve the relocate, or the location of the current block, of the current block garage as presented and conditioned on any changes to the rear of the structure to be presented to HARB for its review. And that was with reference to the moving of the house at 95 Steinware Avenue and the relocation. And that came up for a 3-2 vote. And HARB, it was properly noted that the ordinance requires 4 votes in order to make a recommendation. Okay, and indeed, that's what the ordinance as enacted in 1991 does require that. It seemed a bit strange to me that that was indeed the case in terms of that, essentially that it required a supermajority, if you would. I mean, and when I say supermajority, a majority of the entire body, when, of course, you can have a meeting with a quorum present. So, I mean, HARB was reminded by Gary Schaefer that a motion passes only with 4 members voting in the affirmative, and the ordinance does provide a majority of the board shall constitute a quorum, and action taken at any meeting shall require the affirmative vote of a majority. And in our ordinance, in parentheses, it says 4 members of the board. I've had an opportunity to research that because I want to provide guidance as we go forward. I mean, obviously, we seem to be dealing with issues that come up, and maybe I mean, it appears HARB has looked at this in the past, but at least from my perspective, it's an issue of first impression, or at least one that has been brought to my attention. So anyway, I did a little research of the Municipal Historic Districts Law of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, and it's from that act that we have our authority to have a historic district, to have a historic district ordinance. And so from that authority flows our power to enact an ordinance. The provisions of the municipality or the Municipal Historic Districts Act provides very simply that a majority of the board shall constitute a quorum, and action taken at any meeting shall require the affirmative vote of a majority of the board. So it is my advice, because the state act does not require a 4-vote minimum, that number one, I do think that we need to modify or amend our ordinance to make that comport with the state ordinance or the state statute. Importantly, and I've discussed this with Mr. Whitmore in terms of moving forward. And by the way, I have no criticism whatsoever of how this matter was handled by HARB. As I said to Mr. Whitmore when I spoke to him about it, if I had been there, I would have recommended exactly the same thing because I hadn't had a chance to look at that. And clearly the ordinance says 4 members. However, because, and you folks are doing some very heavy-duty ordinance work right now with your zoning ordinance. I'm also aware that issues have come up where there may be additional issues that you wish to make to the historic district ordinance. So it would be practical to only make this revision at the time that when you make any of the other revisions, doing so. But going forward, what I've advised Mr. Whitmore is that we will act in compliance with the state statute, or at least I've recommended that we will, so that a majority vote of HARB will affect its action. And so if there is a recommendation coming from HARB that has a simple majority, but it's 3 votes, that matter can be properly placed on your agenda for action later on. In other words, that would be a valid recommendation. So my thoughts, my words, my advice.
So you're recommending that we address the HARB ordinance in the future?
I believe that has been suggested,
Yeah.
and backing up, if that was not the intent, and, you know, council forms its own legislative intent. Number one, it is my advice that we should, if nothing else, if you do not wish to look at the HARB ordinance more extensively, that we should proceed and go ahead and make that change. However, from a practical standpoint, we don't need to do that immediately, because I believe that the supremacy clause of the Pennsylvania Constitution, where essentially when it says or when it acts, we can't legislate differently than what they have indicated. So I have no problem whatsoever to tell Mr. Whitmore that moving forward, that's how we'll be handling it, whether or not the ordinance gets amended in the near future or something maybe a little bit more long-term. Again, I'm very sensitive to the fact that you folks have a very heavy-duty matter in front of you with your zoning ordinance, which is the legislative priority of this particular council.
Yeah, I have to say, reading the ordinance as it exists today, it does seem more like sloppy writing than anything else. I mean, it holds HARB to a standard that it doesn't hold council to. I think they were trying to say a majority of the total membership of HARB, but what they accidentally said is a majority of, or no, they meant to say, you know, a majority of people voting, but instead they seem to have said it's a majority of the total membership, which I don't know how we would ever get anything done. If we couldn't take a vote, if somebody's sick or somebody's on vacation, then all work grinds to a halt.
And I would say that as written, it's very clear. It does have the parenthetical in there, and it does indicate 4 members. So that interpretation by HARB, I think, is a very clear interpretation.
Yes.
And very interestingly, that is the only distinction, the parenthetical, from the state authorizing legislation. So that needs to be corrected.
And Mr. Eastman, do you know when that was written, that ordinance?
It was enacted in 1991.
It sounds like it's time for a review.
It might be time for a review.
Yeah, I think it's sloppy. It maybe even be just an accident typo or something, but clearly we should be going by the state statute.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think if this year has shown us anything, it's that reviewing that ordinance is going to be a major legislative priority for next year.
So did that motion pass at the HARB meeting? Is that based
No,
on?
it's my understanding what happened is because of the 3-2 vote, Mr. Schaefer, who has the most extensive experience on HARB, recalled that there was this provision in the ordinance. And he did remind HARB, the board, that in order for them to make a recommendation, it required 4 votes instead of 3. And then I wasn't there, but I know Mr. Whitmore and Ms. English were there. I think, as I've read the minutes, what then there was then a motion to not recommend, and which had a 2-3 vote, okay, which of course, under any interpretation, a 2-3 vote is not going to carry any action. And then what they properly did was then they moved to have table the matter to the September meeting. So, and
October.
What's that?
Or was it the September? Okay, I'm sorry.
I think it's the September
Okay.
meeting,
Okay.
but what that would do would, and again, why I want to talk to council about it is that would potentially tee this up for your action on a recommendation at our October meeting, so.
All right, any questions on that?
Well, just one more. Since Mr. Schaefer brought that up at that meeting, that they had to have 4, did they vote for anything else on that meeting?
Nothing else by a 3-2, yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah. I mean, it's amazing to me that we haven't run into that
Oh,
previously.
we may have very well run into it before.
But this is the first time I became aware of it, and it feels like, that this particular matter is we're going to learn a lot about our ordinance in the process, so, but a very important distinction that needs to be clarified.
All right. Anything else? All right. So we continue to hone the way information is presented on both the administrative approvals as well as the major project reviews. So in our agendas here, we do have 2 minor projects that have been met with administrative approval for our review. I don't know that we need to do anything with those in this meeting. HARB has already acted, and as we have previously established, unless council is prepared to put in writing to the state that we believe HARB acted inappropriately, we cannot overturn their approvals. So we do have a few motions to consider under the HARB tab. Would anybody care to make the first one?
I'll make a motion to, let me make sure I'm on the right page. It's not very separated.
We would be at the top
Make a
of
motion
page
to
2.
accept the HARB consent agenda. Is that where I'm at?
No, we're going to start with the COA 250061, 219 Steinway Avenue.
250061.
Sort of in the middle of the second page.
I do think that, I mean, as I read the agenda, and I defer actually to our
Oh, no, I'm sorry, I skipped ahead.
administrative staff that you do require action on the consent agenda items. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I skipped ahead accidentally.
Okay, so skipping the minor, going
We would start with COA 250064, major project 700 Baltimore Street.
I'll make a motion to accept the HARB consent agenda recommendation for COA-250064, major project 700 Baltimore Street, Tamco Construction, Inc. /GMA for the demolition of an above-ground water storage tank, 424 East Middle Street billing address.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. That motion carries. The second consent.
I'll make a motion to accept.
Go ahead.
I'll make a motion to accept the HARB consent agenda recommendation for COA-250058, major project 120-122 Carlisle Street, Hapco Realty LLC for the replacement of existing wood fencing, rotten, with 6-foot tall white vinyl fence in same location.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? That motion carries. All right, we then move on to the major projects.
I'll make a motion to accept the hard recommendation for COA-250061 major project, 219 Steinway Ave, Maurice Small, for the installation of a new prefabricated 2-story accessory structure barn, conditioned that the roofing materials mimic the roofing materials of the main structure.
Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Next, please.
I'll make a,
Make a motion to accept the HARB recommendation for COA-250072, major project 432 South Washington Street, Adams County Habitat for Humanity, for the new construction of a duplex for Habitat for Humanity as it relates to the presented drawings.
Is there a second? We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. 120 North Stratton Street.
I'll make a motion to accept the HARB recommendation for COA-250073, major project 120 North Stratton Street. Charles and Valerie Huber for the demolition of a side shed, restoration of the vinyl siding, and repairing of the driveway parking area.
Is there, we have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? That motion carries. 219 South Washington.
I'll make a motion to accept the HARB recommendation for COA-250071, critical project, 219 South Washington Street, Adams County Historical Society for the demolition of later additions and the Phase 1 restoration of the original log structure to its original 1836.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? That motion carries. Long time coming. Thank you both. And then Lincoln Cemetery.
I'll make a motion to accept the HARB recommendation for COA-250067, major project, 0 Lincoln Cemetery, AME Zion Church, for the construction of a 14-foot by 16-foot pergola on top of an existing elevated stage.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? That motion carries. Does anybody have any questions for Ms. English? Thank you, ma'am. That takes us to the parking department. Ms. Fissel.
Good evening. You should have my report. I have the comparisons there. I've made some adjustments as well. If you need anything else or need any clarification or have anything else you'd like to see on there, please let me know. There were 15 LPPs purchased for August and 19 quarterlies, so those are still climbing. Their meters are still being certified. The RPPs are now due. The old ones have expired and the current ones will need renewed. Currently to date, there's 168 that were renewed, and last year, at the end of the year, we had 250 total. So there are still a good many out there that haven't renewed, and we have started issuing tickets for that. The only other thing, I have like I said, I have all the charts and everything there. The pay by phone is still very, very popular. As the coin is staying the same, the pay by phone is going up for usage. And then the only thing I would like to, well, two things I didn't put in my report. One, I just this week saw that Hagerstown and Frederick are both removing all of their meters and using the apps. One of them, I believe, uses Park Mobile, one uses pay by phone. And I have both those articles if anybody would like to see them. So I'm just adding them to the list of things that Councilperson Sanders and I have been working with, that we are still in discussions over programming the meters and things like that. We've met a few times and are compiling data. And then the other thing is I was down on Constitution Avenue over the weekend, and I'm not sure if anybody else was down there or not and observed some of the parking down there with the train station opening this weekend. And I'm not sure, I didn't look how many rides they are going to have every weekend, but I know when I was there, there was about 15 cars parked on Constitution. They have a very small lot for their guests to park in. I know there was 100 and some people on our train, and I didn't count the spaces in the lot, but there's probably like 15 spaces in that lot. They also, looks like I had parked in the college lot where they were directing people, but as you know, people don't like to walk far, so they were trying to park as close as they could to the location, which then they were parking on Constitution. Constitution is no parking. There are not signs in that location where those vehicles were parked, so we are going to be looking at that right now. But I'm not sure if everybody recalls back in September, I believe it was, that I addressed that there may be a need for parking on Constitution and that it would be a possibility. That might be something that would need to be looked into as more people keep coming. More parking would need to be available. Cars are going to start probably going other places. People do want to park the closest they can. So that would be a great location for an app only. I still believe that. So not sure if that's worth another look or not.
All right. Any questions for Ms. Fissel?
Oh, yes. How are things at Hillcrest Place?
I have not heard anything.
Do you have has anyone applied for the RPPs that they were requesting?
It's not been,
We haven't voted yet.
We haven't voted yet?
yes.
Great. Thank you.
To update council in that regard, I have received information from Ms. Fissel. I have drafted the ordinance as I've understood that. I'm going to be sharing that with Ms. Fissel tomorrow. And what it would, the intention would be is that that would be then passed over for council to examine, and then at your October meeting, you can decide whether we're going to move forward, which the way to move forward at that point would be to authorize the publication of that ordinance for enactment. So likely that ordinance will be on the agenda for the November meeting.
All right. Any other questions for Ms. Fissel? All right, thank you. It's going to take us to Public Works. Mr. Harbaugh.
Good evening. I submitted my report to you. A couple highlights on my report. The first one will be the line painting for the season for this summer is completed. We got all the yellow lines and crosswalk lines and parking stalls that needed to be done this year done. Parking deck maintenance project, they are completed with that project. They finished on August 29th, so that is wrapped up. And one other thing is special events. So the Public Works Department is gearing up for the many upcoming special events this fall. So you'll be seeing some pre-stage blocks for events out there. That's all I have for my report.
Any questions for Mr. Harbaugh? All right, thank you, sir. Takes us to Mr. Claybaugh.
Good evening, Council. You should have a copy of my written report. I do have a couple of updates for you, and there's a list of motions. Should be fairly straightforward. Should be able to burn through them pretty quickly here. But the first update on my report is with regards to the Gettysburg Interloop Phase B1 project. So the project we just completed was B2 on North Washington Street. B1 is Racehorse Alley between Buford Avenue and North Washington Street. We jumped over that piece because we were waiting on Gettysburg Municipal Authority to get through with their new interceptor project, which is under construction. So the next step is to go back to that stage of the Gettysburg Interloop and pick up that piece that we jumped over. There came to our attention that there was a grant source available for this, that TASA grant. You had a special meeting a few weeks ago to authorize the submittal of that grant application because it was due September 5th. So over the last couple of weeks, we were helping Michael Baker International put together that grant application. In your packets, I believe, is an updated image of what that's going to look like, a cost estimate. The application will fund all of the construction, but will not fund any of the design. So that'll be something that'll be on your budget discussions for the next couple of months to see if you want to push forward with the design of that project in anticipation of the grant for construction. The next item on my report is the parking garage. As Robbie mentioned, that project is complete. The second motion on your agenda has the final AFP to pay the contractor what we still owe them. Just as a reminder, the contract was just over $70,000. Last month, we paid them about $41,000 of that, so we still owe them about $29,000. Fairly straightforward contract. No changes to the quantities, no change orders or anything. We're paying them exactly what was in their contract. So that motion is on your agenda to close that project out. The next item on my report is for the CDBG curb ramps project. One update on that is that the contractor asked if he can delay construction on that a few months. Concrete work can be done through the winter. Some contractors don't like to do that. It doesn't matter to us any. Concrete builds its own heat whenever it cures. The reason why is because they're under the gun trying to get some other paving projects, which can't be done after it gets cold, before PennDOT deadlines. Kinsley's our contractor, it's a big construction company where they do a lot of paving. So we double checked with the county planning office. They administer that CDBG. They didn't have any issues with it. So I didn't have any issues from my perspective. So we won't be starting construction here for another couple of months. So that'll just ride on my report for the next couple of months. The next item on my report is the Welcome Center, and there are, I believe, 4 motions on your agenda for the Welcome Center. The exciting news there is that we're finally done with that NEPA and a Chapter 106, all the environmental clearances, and I hope I'm not stealing Jill's thunder. She may be giving you some updates, but it was quite a lengthy process. That was what was delaying the authorization to go out to bid this project. So at this point, we're pretty much wrapping that up. The money's available to us, the grant money to start this, so we need to go out to bid next to get construction bids. I believe that's the last motion on your agenda, is to authorize the bidding of that project. Over the last couple of weeks, we've been finalizing all of the contract drawings, a lot of different disciplines there, electrical, MEP, it's mechanical, electrical, plumbing, the architect, civil, structural. So all the engineers have been getting together and finalizing all of the bidding documents. Everything's pretty much teed up and ready to go. Everything is submitted to Crabtree Robol Friday last week. So this week they're going to work on cleaning all that stuff up, and that will be out to bid at the end of this week. So they actually already did send the notice into the newspaper in order to meet the deadline that they had to for that. So essentially your authorization, your motion on that last motion on my under my tab is kind of a retroactive. It's allowing us to proceed with that process of obtaining construction bids. It doesn't marry you to having to award that. That just says that we can get bids, and then next month I will hopefully be bringing to you guys good news with a good bid. So that's the update on that. I gave you an update on the Gettysburg and Early Phase B2 project. As you know, most of that project's done. We are still waiting on the trees. The landscaper said that they shouldn't be installing trees till October 1st, so hopefully those will be soon. You do have a motion on your agenda. The first motion under my tab is for a payment to the contractor for $318,000. That total contract is $334,000. So this pays them almost everything except for the trees and some retainage. We hold 5% retainage until we get everything done. Whenever we release that final retainage and we pay them for the trees, the total is going to come out to $335,000. So I think the difference is about $700 out of a $335,000 contract. It's just some quantity adjustments. So we came out really close. No change orders, just a couple of quantity adjustments. So we're pretty pleased with how that project turned out. The only other thing that I wanted to note is that we do have 2 potential issues I mentioned to you. There's a telephone pole issue that has potential damage to a storm pipe, and there's a potential issue with sewer leakage. So we just got some televising done last week. We're waiting on that data. That GMA did the televising, so the televising company has to give their televising information to GMA, and then that'll get relayed to me and Robbie, and at that point we'll have a chance to investigate that. We haven't gotten it yet, so as soon as we get that, we'll be able to figure out what the resolve is for those 2 issues. The one issue is obviously just a med ed issue, so it has nothing to do with Kinsley, our contractor. The other one, the sewer issue, potentially does. We don't know for sure yet until we really know, so we're going to be recommending that we hold that retainage. Contractors aware of this, they know, they're willing to fix it if they made an issue. So we might be holding that for a little while until we get that issue resolved. Let's see, what else do I have for you? I gave you a quick update on the Public Works Facility Master Plan. I'm not going to get into the weeds with that tonight. We do anticipate that we're going to have some presentations to the Borough Council on that. That got pushed to the back burner with all of the other things that we have going on. But after talking with Robbie and the Borough Manager, we determined that that is still a high priority for us. We really like to get some things done there at the Public Works Garage. So we're going to move that back to the front burner. And like I said, I'll be presenting that to you guys in the upcoming meeting soon. And then lastly, I gave you an update on the Shippensburg Physical Therapy Land Development Plan. That project's mainly done, but we're still finalizing some things with that developer, one of which is the dedication of the decorative street lights. So the street lights are in, so one of your upcoming meetings here, we're going to be providing some documentation. I'll be getting with Mr. Eastman on that dedication document, so we can finally put that project to bed. So that is it, unless you have any questions. Oh, I'm sorry, I did want to say one more thing. For the motions on your agenda, as I mentioned, there's 4 motions. 3 of the motions on the Welcome Center with regards to easements. In order to be able to construct a new Welcome Center, we need about 3 feet from each of the neighboring properties, a little bit of space to be able to get everything constructed. On the south side, we also want to retain 2 of those 3 feet for the sidewalk. And the reason is because that's where the escape room was. If we built our sidewalk that's going to run along the side of that property, right up to the property line, it would leave like 14 inches, this little weird strip of grass between the edge of the sidewalk and the building. After talking to the property owners, they didn't want to have this little weird strip of grass that they would have to maintain. So we're just going to run the sidewalk all the way up to their building and then draw a straight line back from that. That's why we need that 2 feet of permanent easement. Either way, our sidewalk would be ADA compliant. It'd be a 5-foot sidewalk. This just makes it another like 14 inches more than that, a little over 6 feet wide to the back of the property. The property owner did suggest that they would like to have a fence then along that side too. So the easement, if you read the easement, it says for the sidewalk and for the fence that's going to get installed. So that's what the easements are for, in case you were wondering. So with that, I have nothing to add unless you have any questions for me.
I have a question.
Sure.
It was a while back, but I feel like council landed on the Franklin funnel. I'm looking at your drawings for the TASA grant application.
We actually didn't.
I thought we did.
One way west.
No,
how it ended?
we had a.
It was a while back, so I couldn't remember.
Yeah, we voted on the one-way west.
One way west?
Yep,
All
one-way
right,
west.
there it is.
Yeah, and actually, I did look back through, and before we put this application in, I confirmed I found the minutes from that meeting, and I believe, Matt, what you might be thinking is there was a motion for the one-way west that failed, and then it came back through for another. I'm sorry, there was a motion for the Franklin funnel that failed, and then it had to come back through for a second motion that passed, which was one-way west.
All right, thank you for that clarification. Thank you, Chris.
You're welcome.
All right, any questions for Mr. Klebaugh before we get into the motions? All right, let's get through them.
I'll make a motion to approve application for payment number 1 to Kinsley Construction for the North Washington Street CTP2 or C2P2 project in the amount of $318,373.15 as recommended by the borough engineer.
Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? The motion carries. Next, please.
I'll make a motion to approve application for payment number 2, final payment to Arch Masonry, Inc. in the amount of $29,385.20 for the Racehorse Alley Parking Garage Maintenance 2025 project as recommended by the borough engineer.
Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? That motion carries. Next, please.
I'll make a motion authorizing the Borough of Gettysburg to execute and deliver the temporary construction easement agreement with Alexander Zaharias and Janet Lucille Smith, owners of property identified by street address 336 Baltimore Street, in connection with the construction of a new facility at 340 Baltimore Street, referred to as the Welcome Center Project.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? That motion carries. Next, please.
I'll make a motion authorizing the Borough of Gettysburg to execute and deliver the temporary construction easement agreement with Gettysburg Works LLC, owners of property identified by street address 344 Baltimore Street, in connection with construction of a new facility at 340 Baltimore Street, referred to as the Welcome Center Project.
Is there a second? We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Next.
I'll make a motion authorizing the Borough of Gettysburg to execute and deliver the permanent easement agreement with Gettysburg Works LLC, owners of property identified by street address 344 Baltimore Street, for the construction and maintenance of a new sidewalk and fence to ensure the continued integrity of the sidewalk and fence, and to provide access to the property for the purposes of installation, operation, inspection, maintenance, repair, and replacement of the sidewalk and fence in connection with construction of a new facility at 340 Baltimore Street, referred to as the Welcome Center Project.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? The motion carries. We continue to inch closer and closer to this reality. And the last motion here, please. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? That motion carries. Any questions for Mr. Claybaugh before we move on? All right. Thank you, sir.
Sure.
Good evening, Sergeant Evans. How are you?
I'm well. How are you?
Very well.
Good evening. The council should have a copy of my my monthly report. If you have any questions or anything you want me to elaborate on, please just ask me. A couple things I want to note is Officer Kane is in his final phase of his FTO, so he should be ready to hit the streets on his own probably sometime by the end of next week. So he's doing an outstanding job. An update for President Moon on the co-responder. We do have a new co-responder. He is supposed, I believe, to be housed out of our department, the last I was told. He is currently also in his field training. He was, I believe, is a co-responder in York County, so he's trying to get acclimated the way we do things here in Adams County. His name is Abraham Madali, and I hope I'm saying that right. I believe it's Madali. So you might see him around in and out, and I'll introduce you once he's established here more full time. Update on Cadet Salty, Zach Salty, who's in the police academy. I actually just got an update from Hack today. He is doing very well. He's passed all his tests, his assessments. And his grade point average right now is a 93.6%, so he's doing outstanding. So what we like to see. I guess the final thing I'd like to highlight some of my guys' great work they do every month. So I'm going to go over two cases that these guys did an outstanding job on. The first one, on August 11th, about 4:29 a.m., Officer Weinrich responded to a disturbance at 49 North Washington Street. Upon arrival, it was determined that the suspect had strangled a subject unconscious and robbed him. Officer Weinrich was able to identify the suspect, quickly canvassed the area, and was able to locate him and arrest him without incident. He's consistently demonstrated just a high standard of police work that shouldn't go unnoticed. So he constantly just doing great work. August 30th, the second incident at about 10:05 in the evening, Officer McDonald and Officer Bowes responded to a fight on Breckenridge Street. Upon arrival, they found a male victim unconscious on the sidewalk with severe injuries. Officers located 2 male suspects nearby and quickly took them into custody. Both subjects were charged with aggravated assault, simple assault, terroristic threats, and the investigation remains open. But these officers, again, did an outstanding job in assessing the incident, immediately identified and arresting the suspects and getting victims the immediate medical attention they needed. These guys continually do a great job. The borough should be so lucky that they have a local police force that's highly trained and very responsive. I mean, we get a call for service and we can get there within a minute or so. Sometimes quicker. I mean, sometimes, of course, depending, like, for instance, the Breckenridge incident, the guys were doing a foot patrol in the square, so they had to traverse back to their vehicles to get there. But so that might have prolonged their response, but they still got there within minutes. So outstanding job always by these guys. These are just 2 highlights of, just 2 incidents for the past month, but they consistently do great professional police work. So it can't be understated with these guys. You guys have a phenomenal department. So any questions about the report or anything else, please let me know.
Any questions for Sergeant Evans?
I just wanted to say I saw in your report that you participated in 3 of the freshman orientations at the college, and which is somewhat of like an informative and a welcoming kind of thing that I think that you did. And I just want to say thank you for helping to continue to foster that relationship, and hopefully, we can continue to have a great relationship with the college that way.
Yeah, I mean, we routinely, communicate with the college almost daily, actually. Of course, with all the special events coming up, we help each other out with that. Also, we have a good relationship with the Department of Public Safety, fostering that relationship, of course. But yeah, it's something in the future we're looking to do, respond to, go to events with them and kind of, I've had some officers go to different events on the campus so they can, get to know the officers, get acclimated with the officers being around. So yeah, that freshman event, that was very informative. I got to speak with some of the freshmen and get to know them, kind of put a face to the name. Yep. Let them know what the uniforms look like. There's a difference between our uniform and DPS's. I mean, they need to know that. We're law enforcement officers. They're there to provide, protection, security for on campus. So, so it was a good event. Yeah, we look forward to doing stuff like that in the future.
I'd like to actually expand on what Peter said too. Something else in your report jumped out at me. The specific outreach to foreign students. I think that is a really incredibly important gesture that I don't know we've ever really tackled before. There is so much anxiety and uncertainty about being here on a visa right now, and for you to have made that gesture, I think could be really hugely important to put a lot of young minds at ease so they can concentrate on their learning. There has, unfortunately, last year we did have an incident where somebody, perhaps posing as law enforcement, accosted a student. We haven't been able to find, as far as I know, any intelligence that they actually were working for any law enforcement agency, but this is a really tense time, and that extension of your personal approach there is really, I think, an important gesture. Thank you for that.
Yeah, I mean, we identified that need, on a couple different occasions. We've had interactions with, some of these foreign students that just aren't familiar about how to interact with, law enforcement in the United States. Of course, like I said in my report, sometimes in their countries, the relationships between the police and the citizens are completely different than the interaction, the relationships we have here. So, identified that, and it's like I said earlier, so they have to be able to see our uniform to understand that there is a difference between the law enforcement officer and the public safety officer. Right. Not to take away anything from them and their job; they do an outstanding job. But we have a level of enforcement that's a little above what they're able to do. So, yeah.
All right. Anything else for Sergeant Evans before we get into these motions? All right. Anybody care to make the first motion ahead of us?
I'll make a motion to enact proposed ordinance number 1495-25 for the purposes of amending and replacing Chapter 1A, Part 4, Section 403 of the Code of Ordinances of the Borough of Gettysburg, relative to the update, revision, and confirmation of the qualifications, abilities, duties, and responsibilities of the Borough Office of Chief of Police.
Is there a second? We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion?
I'd just like to lift something up there. I'll be reluctantly voting for this only because of this one thing that sticks at me. And I understand that I was most likely at the workshop meeting whenever we created this and advertised it. But I truly hope that we are not missing out on opportunities for someone that might not have finished some type of bachelor degree in criminal justice. And I kind of hope that it would have been worded in a different way. But again, my fault for not bringing it up before, that it could have been something to the effect of, as many things could be with many other positions, bachelor's degree or equivalent of professional experience and life experience. There are many people that are, college is just not in the cards for them. And as we go further and further into this century, I really think that that's unfortunately going to be a lot more the case for young people, for any people, anyone, no matter the age. But like I said, I was part of that, creating this, and I will vote for it reluctantly.
All right, any other discussion? All right, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? The motion carries. The next motion for the resolution, please.
A motion to adopt resolution number 090825-1 for the purpose of amending rules and regulations of the Borough of Gettysburg relative to the qualifications and requirements of the position.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? The motion carries. And the last motion, please.
I'll make a motion to authorize and provide notification to the Civil Service Commission of the Borough of Gettysburg to request the certification of an eligibility list by the Civil Service Commission for the position of entry-level patrol officer of the Gettysburg Borough Police Department.
Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Just for those watching at home, putting it out there, the Gettysburg Police Department, of which you've just heard the virtues extolled, is hiring. We need you to be a police officer. If you are Act 120 certified, please apply. If you're not, we have considerations to help put you through the police academy. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? That motion carries. Any questions for Sergeant Evans before we move on? All right. Thank you, sir. It takes us to the officer of the manager and the treasurer. Ms. Stull.
I don't have anything else to report. There are a lot of motions on our, under our tab there.
Great. Any questions for Ms. Stull? All right. Manager Gable.
In addition to my written report, you'll also note I have the monthly spreadsheet for the various funds that we have. Of course, our largest fund being the general fund. To date, the borough is running a notable surplus of just over $1.2 million year to date through July 31. However, there are a couple considerations there. One, the borough has not yet issued some of its large debt service payments that are required by the end of the year. Most of those go out in October. The other thing I think to keep note, the reason the surplus is considerably large this year so far, year to date, is we have several vacancies in a couple of our departments, so we are not paying payroll that was appropriately budgeted December of last year. Should those positions fill sooner than later, then we would catch up. But right now, with our trajectory, it does not look like we'll have a chief of police and or a new patrolman in the police department by the end of the year. And we may not have a chief for maybe 1 or 2 months into the new year, depending on our timeline and search. So just remember that that's still floating out there. I wanted to update council on a couple things. Other members of the staff commented on a few of these. I just wanted to highlight that the 2023 Department of Environmental Protection Act 101, Section 902 recycling grant, that is the Leaf Act truck. Of course, we have that in the works, and we are now in the process of submitting for reimbursement. So over $300,000 will be reimbursed to the borough here, hopefully in the next month or so. It was noted earlier tonight that the CDBG funds for 2025 will be allocated to the Children's Advocacy Center, and we will be working with GMS funding strategies to make sure that is appropriately authorized and submitted for action for when their project is up and running. It was noted that all of our environmental reviews for the Welcome Center are complete. So it is my expectation by the end of this month we will be asking HUD to release those funds. So that means we can begin building, hopefully, by November or December of this year. And as you are also aware, we were not awarded this round of the build grant for the Gateway Connectivity Project. However, we have been notified that we are eligible for a debrief with the Federal Highway Administration. That's not yet been scheduled, but we will be doing that and hopefully understanding a little bit more about how to strengthen round 6 when we submit for the grant later this year or early next. And of course, Mr. Clayball mentioned that we did apply for the Transportation Set-Aside grant for $1.5 million of construction funds for the segment of the Gettysburg Inner Loop. In all of our other funds, the borough remains to have a very strong fund balance as it relates to our general fund with just $1.07 million, which is just under the 18% threshold set by your fund balance policy. But considering there's other, $1.9 million in your liquid cash, I'm not concerned about that small deficit in the reserve. And all the other funds are doing quite well. You can see capital reserves remains very high at $2.2 million. But it wouldn't take much for us to spend that, depending on what we decide to do moving forward. With that, I have nothing else to add unless there are questions before we get into the motions.
Any questions for the manager? All right, let's get into those motions, please. Would anyone care to make a motion to approve all
I'll make a
bills
motion
and
to
payrolls
approve
for the
all
month?
bills and payrolls for the month as presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? The motion carries. The
I'll make a
COLA.
motion to authorize a COLA increase for retired police pensioner Kevin Wilson to be paid from the police pension plan effective August 1, 2025.
Is there a second? We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. The MMO, please.
I'll make a motion to approve the 2026 minimum municipal obligation, MMO, based upon market value of assets for the Gettysburg Police Pension Plan in the amount of $243,731 and the non-uniformed pension plan in the amount of $142,489.
Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. The resolution, please.
I'll make a motion to adopt resolution number 090825-2, authorizing the submission of an application to the Pennsylvania Department of Community and Economic Development by the County of Adams on behalf of the Borough of Gettysburg for grant funding through the Community Development Block Grant CDBG program for FY 2025 in support of the Adams County Children's Advocacy Center Building Brighter Tomorrow Center renovation project at 224 Baltimore Street within the borough. Charles R. Gable, Borough Manager, and Sarah L. Stahl, Borough Secretary, and hereby authorized to sign, attest, execute, and deliver any necessary application forms and documents required for the submission of the CDBG grant program application.
Second.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? That motion carries. The HARB appointment.
I'll make a motion to appoint Stephanie Shera to the Gettysburg Historic Architectural Review Board to complete the remainder of the unexpired 5-year term of office of Andrew Johnson, which term will expire in August 2026.
Is there a
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. And then Shade Tree.
Make a motion to appoint Robin Wagner as a member of the Shade Tree Commission for a 5-year term expiring in October 2030.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? That motion carries. It brings us to our liaison reports for the evening, and we'll start with Jill Sellers in Main Street, Gettysburg.
Good evening, everyone. Few notes. You have my report. I'm pleased to say that the 300-page application for Main Street Matters designation is submitted and with this date. I'm very glad to have that off my plate, and I look forward to, once notifications are made, that I can share that application with the community. So, but DCD wants to review those applications first before they're made public. So that will be ready for your reading enjoyment soon. America 250 PA, lots of things continuing to go on. I need to make a really shout out to our Community Engagement Committee. They are going to events around Adams County, and so Ted Hurt took our little traveling show of giveaways and volunteer opportunities and events and went to the farmers market this weekend and really engaged with a lot of people, got people interested in signing up, being volunteer for 2026, and I think it's a great outreach, and there'll be others coming as well. We continue to support the Lincoln Fellowship of Pennsylvania and the National Park Service as the Gettysburg Address reenactment continues to develop. So we'll be watching for more announcements on that. That won't come from me, but just letting you know that I'm staying close to that, and it's really unfolding in an amazing way. I was invited to join the Sekigahara planning meeting. So the 10th anniversary of the sistership between Sekigahara and Gettysburg is coming up, and then the anniversary of their battle is this October. So Mayor Freeling and Chris Gwen of the Park Service will be traveling to Japan to represent Gettysburg. They will be doing so at their own expense. So if anybody has any questions about that, but Main Street Gettysburg is, we're going to try to help with some gifts and things to present to the delegations that they're going to be meeting in several locations while they're there. So that happens in October. The Steinware bid, on behalf of Mrs. Butterfield, we had our meeting on September 4th. We continue to talk about beautification projects, events on the avenue, updating their website and social media, which has really taken off. It's going to hit probably more than 1 million shares this month, so they really have upgraded their social media impact. Of course, we're talking about the Christmas festival, and I'll continue to tell the community, the business community, about the facade improvement program, the zero interest loan program. And the only concern that really came up out of the bid meeting was concerns about traffic on Court Alley. So discussing those with businesses and as well as borough staff. So 88 days till the Christmas festival. We need participation. We need help to deliver the whole thing. It is coming together nicely, but, you know, we are counting down for sure. I know it's hard to believe, but yeah, 88 days. And finally, my thanks to the borough staff and the borough engineer for their professionalism in developing the Gettysburg Welcome Center project. So it is, as it is football season, this has been a game of inches, to say the least, but we are finally getting closer and closer. Really excited to see those bids come out. I've had a lot of, or I should say several general contractors get in touch with me that are interested in the project, and very excited to see where those bids are going to come in and get some shovels in the ground. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer.
Any questions for Jill?
Okay.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you all.
Gara?
Yes, I have a few things. The director at the Rec Park wishes me to express that they are hosting a team from the United Way Day of Caring this Saturday morning. They have 10 members. They have 10 members of the girls wrestling team that helped with some refurbishing of picnic tables and benches. We have 191 kids involved in the youth football program that also includes cheerleading and 4 divisions of students. This is a great feeder program for the local school district athletic programs as well. Fall baseball is underway and they have several teams. There will be a fundraiser home run derby that is very popular happening next week. The seniors in the trades program at Adams County Technical Institute plan to help us install the new North End playground very soon. Trades instructor Dave Snyder will be working with the team and has 14 seniors to make this happen. The playground was purchased with a Green Space County grant and matching funds from the Tim Klein Foundation. I also want to bring up that the newly refurbished Little League baseball press box storage area for the Gettysburg Little League is there. All materials and labor donated by Front Runner Construction. Thank you.
All right, thank you. GMA?
I was not able to make the meeting in August, so
All right.
nothing to report.
Mayor Freeling, ACBA.
Summer break is over. Our next meeting is September 15th.
All right, we look forward to hearing your update next month. Happy Patty.
Nothing to report right now.
All
Thank
right,
you.
great. Trail feasibility.
I did talk to Dennis Hickethier again, and
Once a
it's
year,
still,
whether we need it or not, right?
Well, it was a couple months ago. Our trail study was finished a couple years ago. The National Parks Trail Study is still going on, so we're still waiting for them to finish their trail study.
All right. All right, we have the fire and EMS reports in our folders. And as we get into elected officials' comments here, on the subject of fire and EMS, I would like to extend my personal gratitude and how impressed I was last Friday when one of my colleagues was injured at the Majestic, the Gettysburg Police Department, the Fire Department, and EMS all responded within minutes and were able to make sure that a gentleman's needs were met in a really difficult rescue, and I was really impressed to watch it all, and I just want to say thanks to every agency involved. Elected officials' comments. Mayor Freeling?
Yes, I would like just to clarify one thing, Jill. Yeah. Sakagahara is paying my trip to Japan. Okay? And I already contacted the State Ethics Commission to see if there's any question about that, and they said there wasn't. I just wanted to be sure.
Okay.
Okay, now, I will be resuming campus office hours at Gettysburg College, and Sergeant Evans will be accompanying me. Another thing, we have a meeting with WellSpan to get the continued funding for equipment and training, and that's going to take place on September 18th. And September 19th, we're meeting with the college president, correct? Yes, to continue to foster relationships between the community, the police department, and the campus, to improve our town-gown relationships. October 1st through the 3rd, I will be in Erie. I'm a board member of the Pennsylvania Municipal League. It's a training, educational conference, and we just get together and talk about different issues with our boroughs, cities, and mayors and other elected officials. Charles, you appointed me to the resolution committee. That
I didn't appoint anybody.
Well, okay, you appointed me, sorry. Well, he suggested. You appointed me to the resolution committee. They meet on Friday because Saturday, I'm going to do a quick turnaround, and I talked with them today, the Pennsylvania Municipal League. They're sending me back to Gettysburg because I forgot what's going on October 4th. Oh, the announcement of the Jack Hopkins House. It's on Washington Street, which Andrew Dalton talked about, and they invited me to speak at the opening, so I'm coming back for that. And there's also the Arc Walk that's going to be in the rec park. And that's a joint effort between York and Adams County. So hopefully I'll be back. And then I leave the 7th for Sakagahara, and I'm really looking forward to it. I'm even taking Japanese lessons at the college. They offered. Just little phrases. Arigato. Thank you.
Sure. Anyone else here? Anybody out there?
I'd like to just mention a public service announcement. Tonight we appointed two citizens in the borough of Gettysburg to ABCs, authority boards and commissions. I just want to let the public know again that we have 10 ABCs. They range from planning, zoning, shade tree commission, HARB, and they are on our website. We have 60 citizens that serve as members of these 10 boards, authorities, and commissions, and we welcome applications. We keep them on file. We interview candidates, and I'm really pleased that we appointed Steph Scherer. She has a lot of good experience as a former businesswoman in downtown Gettysburg, as well as experience working with the Park Service, and Robin Wagner, who is a private citizen also, but worked with David Rice, the chair of Shade Tree Commission, as the East Broadway renovation to the road and to the sidewalks were taking place. She engineered and got a movement to get the citizens in that area of the borough to group purchase trees and things, so she's got a good background in that. But for those who are interested, we continually accept applications and keep them on file. So I just want to put that out again as a PSA. Thank you.
Thank you. Peter?
Matt,
any?
can I add one thing, please?
Sure.
And the trip to Sakagahara is not at taxpayers' expenses. Not at all.
Great. Mr. Bales? I just have one announcement. Please mark your calendars. October 25th from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. will be the next medicine take-back across the street at the Housing Authority. I'll be there. Maybe some police will be there. You can give us all your drugs. We will make sure they are safely disposed of. And please don't flush them. Please don't put them in landfills. Please give them to us for proper legal disposal. That's 10 to 2 on the 25th, and that is a free event. That's going to take us back to our second public comment section of the evening. Is anyone looking to speak? Does not look like it. All right. Seeing none, we will adjourn. Thank you, everybody.